well. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Good to see you.
Likewise, it's great to see you as well, and thanks for letting me know that my emails are going into the junk folder. That's what I love to hear.
That man, it's so hard to do a campaign that doesn't do that. So I hope you get it figured out because I'm about to do a campaign, but I've been hesitant because I don't want to end up in junk. So I'm trying to figure out a workaround.
Yeah, yeah. Question. I mean, I don't know what you've used before, but I try to make sure that most of my email accounts are warm so
Yeah.
that they don't land. But you know,
Yeah.
it happens. I use Instantly for my campaigns. I'm not sure what you use.
I use HubSpot.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, at least you are very much my target audience. So
Yeah. I love it. I was like, I think she started a campaign.
I did, and you were in both my LinkedIn and clearly my instant. So I'm just fangirling over here.
Yeah. No, that's
Uh,
awesome.
Yeah. So basically, you wanted to kind of high level what we're going to go through
Yeah.
today is kind of we're going to go through kind of why you started at Peak Mind, any industry trends you're seeing, what you've seen along the way, challenges you faced, and then finally we'll wrap up by exploring any sort of next steps if those make sense. So whole conversation should last no more than about a half hour or so.
And I
Um,
noticed on some of the stuff, I forget where I spent more time, I guess on your website or somewhere. I noticed you talk about holistic well-being, and I know we didn't get into that last time. Is there anything that you want to cover, or like how you see Peak Mind as a part of that? Like, I would love to know that, just so I can make sure to kind of weave it in.
yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say There I think it'll follow its own sort of flow or organic conversation, so not necessarily anything that, I think angle-wise that we want to make sure we hit. I think more so is making sure that you really share everything that you want to in terms of, like, the stress, the burnout, like, just my job is to see how vulnerable of a conversation we can have and also just kind of share, really what I have had. I think the most common thing that I've had people come to me after a conversation saying, like, oh, I wish I said this, or something
Yeah.
like that. So just kind of keeping in mind, like, hey, just let's see where this goes and just know that the conversation takes its own um, organic path.
Okay.
So, um,
Awesome.
yeah, let's dive in. Thank you, Alicia, for joining me here today. I'd love to hear, a little bit more about your journey and why did you decide to start Peak Mind?
Definitely. Great to be here. And thanks for having me. I started Peak Mind about 10, 11 years ago because I kept seeing a common trend with my CEO customers and board of directors. As you know, for 21 years, I've been a business owner and I've run a corporate interior design business. So I can design beautiful Google-esque type offices, convention centers, hotels, you name it, in the corporate arena. And you get a big budget when you get to design those type of spaces. And as a designer, part of our job is to ask the question, what do you need in your space to be successful? What do you need your space to look like? Do you need conference rooms, podcast studios? Because that's a part of your brand mission and part of the daily tasks. And so thousands and thousands of conversations and questions with people from C-suites down to every employee level asking that question, what do you want your office to have as far as physical infrastructure and support spaces? So we would toss out, do you want a slide like Google? In fact, we designed a tech office in Indianapolis, Indiana that has two slides where you can slide out of the fourth story window and go down to the courtyard. Right, but it's not right for every culture. Do you want a break room? Do you guys eat together? Do you not? Right. And so in asking those questions about the physical infrastructure, I started to realize that we get into the personal uh, passions and the personal needs. And one thing we would design offices and then people would say they're still not happy with the office. And that just really confused me because we would ask so many questions about what do you need to be successful and to thrive? And we were open to opportunities. If somebody said they wanted a workout facility, we had the ability to build a workout facility. And so I realized there was a disconnect that not everybody really realizes what they need to be truly healthy and happy and successful and productive in a workplace. And I started to think, gosh, why do adults not know how to vocalize their needs? And so I did a lot of research and really came to the conclusion that a lot of adults working, the older generations just have never been taught to express their needs and wants and desires in a corporate space. And so they say the basic things, that everybody says, more conference space, personal office space, quiet space, but they don't think through what's going to make them truly happy and kind of that holistic well-being because we don't leave our personal side at the door when we come to work. And so I really realized that I had a passion for diving into mental well-being and helping adults to vocalize their needs and their wants and their desires. And it's okay to ask for those during the workday because as adults, you spend most of your waking hours at work. And so if we want to live healthy, happy lives, we have to try our best to have an office space or, wherever we're going. If you're a volunteer each day and you're retired, great. Then wherever you're going, right, you want that physical infrastructure to really support your mental well-being. And so I started Peak Mind because it was another way, it was a product that I could sell to my CEO customers to not only have beautiful buildings, but to have beautiful mindsets as well.
Amazing. And I know something that is super interesting that you've done that I've noticed is you're almost bridging the tech and the wellness piece of it too. You've had experience working in the VR space, the AR, the AI driven personalization. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Definitely. When I realized that there was a problem that were suffering from low mental well-being and low morale during the workday, I said, how do we solve it? This needs to be a company or a product. I didn't know it was tech from day one. I thought I was just going to go hire a bunch of therapists and I was going to throw a therapist to every one of my customers. That was not sustainable and was not really the route to go because therapy is not for everybody. And, you use the term wellness. There's a difference between wellness and well-being and mental health. And so then I had to realize how to treat the whole person and look at some of these wellness, which are programs, healthy living, smoking cessation programs, those type of programming that companies can bring in and experts in that space. And that's not where we were. So that didn't really fit. Then I realized mental well-being by definition is health, happiness, and quality of life. And what that is, that spoke to me more so than mental health and mental wellness. And mental health is you're born with a medical condition or a neurological condition that's, your life, your hormones and chemicals need balancing. You need long-term support to overcome those conditions. And so that sweet spot in the middle is really where I felt like we fit. And so I asked myself, how do we take mental well-being, health, happiness, and quality of life and give this to companies? And I thought the best way was software as a service. A software. It's like you buy Microsoft Word for all your employees. Why not buy a software that says, here's watch these videos, watch these, read these action steps and learn how to empower yourself to thrive during the workday. And so it just kind of naturally became a tech product. And I make reference to great mental health solutions in our product, even though we're not a mental health solution. And I make reference to wellness providers, yoga providers, chair massage providers. I make reference to all of those in our app. So it's kind of blending all of that together.
Amazing. That's so fascinating. And so within your app, people can, it's like a choose your own adventure, right? Like, do you need more of the like the mental emotional support? Do you need more of like kind of how would somebody navigate or what do you feel like people gravitate to most within the app?
Yeah. That's a great question. It is a choose your own adventure because all of our minds are different and our stress is different today. It's different in the next hour. It's different tomorrow. And so what I looked at was I interviewed a bunch of therapists and neuroscientists and psychologists, and I said, how do we support our workers during the workday? What are the common issues that you see when people come to you for therapy? And how can we aggregate that learning experience and that therapeutic experience and send it to the masses. No matter if a man in Russia is struggling today or a woman in, Norway or somebody here in the US, right? It's how can we meet that person where they are? And really that's the beauty of AI. And so we've been an AI company way before the AI boom. Machine learning and artificial emotional intelligence are all things that we looked at and said, how can we use the products that exist today? AI back when I started this was mostly being used for marketing. They were studying what we were looking at on the website. If you went to online marketplace, they were saying, "Oh, Alicia stood and looked at this, pair of pants for 2 minutes. She really likes that pair of pants more than this pair because she only glanced at that." Right? That's how they were using machine learning to say, "Let's sell her more of this type of thing." And when I realized that that technology all existed, and it's existed for years, right? But only the major corporations and the bigger companies were using it before the new AI boom that we're in today. And so I said, let's use that technology for good. If they can use it to market us and sell us something, how about I use it to promote well-being and meet that person where they are? And so instead of it, being that Alicia looked at that pair of pants for 2 minutes, in our app, I can tell that somebody looked at the loneliness action step for 2 minutes. Or I can tell that they spent, 10 minutes reading about seasonal affective disorder. And so then tomorrow, our app can support that person by saying, how are you feeling today? Because if they spent time looking at something, mindset related or physical health related, then we have an indication. It helps us know what that person is struggling with and how we can best help them.
That's amazing that, it's able to like, I think we've seen the tailored ads. We speak something to an we see an ad for it right away.
Yes.
Um, whereas what I love about, your app, Peak Mind, people, it's like, I think what I'm finding, yes, we struggle a lot with, the loneliness, feeling alone, burnout, maybe even imposter syndrome. Um, and it sounds to me like you're able to really tailor and customize that experience for each individual person. What do you feel like? What was something that you really noticed? Like it sounds to me like you were really burnt out, maybe in your corporate job, that led you to this journey, right? What were some of those steps along the way? Like, how did for somebody that's just starting out, say, like, what really worked for you?
Definitely. Yes, I hit burnout about 10 years into running my business. For the first 10 years, I was just go, go, go. I was task oriented. I was deadline oriented. I was trying to sell and market and do all the things that you need to do to be a successful CEO. But what I was never taught before that was being a successful CEO looks like completing your tasks, but also thriving and excelling and being the best version of yourself, showing up for your employees. Being healthy and happy is contagious. Being toxic and overworked and burnt out is also contagious. And that's, something that I would teach to a younger person getting into this is you have a choice. Health, happiness, and well-being is a choice. We can health, if you're born with something, you're going to face a harder journey. But most of us that fit kind of in that 60% in the middle that we're susceptible to either having a great day or having a negative day, depending on our environment, depending on the coping skills that we have, the tools in our tool belt. And so I wish, Peak Mind, I built it for myself first and foremost, right? It was something that I knew I had researched enough about how to get myself out of the valley of the valley of struggle, the valley of despair, and never hit burnout again. And I knew that I wasn't alone. And just the more I talk and do podcasts and speak on stages, I'm continuously reminded that there are so many people struggling that need these basic tools and tips that I have learned the hard way over the journey and had to kind of support myself and get to. They need the same support.
Absolutely. It sounds to me like, it's taking a theory and actually applying it, putting it into practice. And, it like you had to learn the hard ways. And now it's like, okay, I had to learn the hard way, so you don't have to.
Exactly.
And so would you say there's and I noticed within your app, I think it's like you have like some nudges, right? Like
Mhm.
there's some notifications that go out, like check-ins. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Definitely. So, in my years of research and development before I created Peak Mind, I came across this theory called the nudge theory. I forget the scientist that coined that term, but it's very Googleable. And he said that most people will take action and make change in their life through micro occurrences. And you need micro nudges to remind you and to motivate you towards that goal, towards that whatever the journey is. And when I read that, I thought to myself, that's it, right? It's hard for most of us to just say, I'm going to do this today and I'm going to go do it 100% and I'm going to be done with it. Most of us, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take a lot of involvement of other people and resources, and so how do we continue to stay motivated towards whatever that journey is, if it's a project or if it's overall mental well-being? Smoking cessation, all these things, right? It's the change process is hard, and that's why most people don't finish their goals and complete their goals is because change is hard. It inevitably is. We don't know all the unknowns, right? Our brain gets into primal mode and we get into fight or flight, and we are afraid of what the next thing is because we haven't seen it before, and that's just natural. And so if we can take, like you said, the theory of how the brain works, the theory of how stress affects us, and put it into practical action steps and break it down into micro nudges, that's what really I think will help people be the most successful. And so wherever people are at in their journey, if they share that with the app, the AI and the machine learning can help give them a personalized roadmap to meet their success because everybody's success looks so vastly different.
Well, absolutely. And I like that you break it down like that because I think so many times we can look at the mountain we need to climb, right?
Mhm,
We're like sitting at the bottom, we're at our rock bottom, and we just think that mountain is like almost impossible. But then if
mhm.
you break it down into these, like, okay, well, what's the first base point? And like, where can I set up camp for the first part and then see, like, okay, well, I did that, and then like get to the next base, get to the next one. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, you can break it down in a way that feels a little bit more palatable or where you can actually reflect and see the changes, the micro changes that we don't necessarily see like when we start a year. Like the new year, we have this like all these resolutions and like we're going to get healthy, we're going to get our mental health in check, we're going to see a therapist, we're going to do all the things and then, 2 weeks into January goes out the door.
Yeah,
And what I like about what you're talking about is, well, okay, let's break this down into something that is manageable and it sounds to me like you can also track the progress as well, right?
correct. And we give people hacks, one brain hack to speak to this exact point that we remind people about is when you have a goal in mind, whatever that mountaintop is that you're reaching, our brain wants small wins. You need dopamine hits along the journey. And so many times when you don't take that time to reflect, you don't give yourself that gratitude, reflection, dopamine hit. And so, one thing we recommend is break it down. And if it's weekly, give yourself a little bar of chocolate or give yourself a one slice of cake, each week or whatever your gives you a dopamine hit, right? Mine is eating Chewy's Mexican food. I love those chips and salsa, right? If I say, I'm going to work hard this week and every Friday I'm going to end up at Chewy's, my brain would be like, yes, let's do this thing. And so those are the small wins, but then your brain needs a big win at the end. And so that there has to be something greater at the end, but still maintaining that positive hormones that we need to get to there. And so those are the types of simple and easy and effective things that we want to teach people that it doesn't have to be hard to live a better quality life. You just have to enact some of these practices and you have to make a choice and say, I'm going to be intentional about my mental well-being and my mental health and my wellness, and I'm going to be intentional and I want this to be a part of my life.
Absolutely. I think it really does start with intentionality. Like somebody could say they want to change or they want to lose 20 pounds, but like, what are the actionable steps that you're doing to get there? Right. So when you break it down in a way that is like, okay, well, here's step number one, here's step number two, um, makes it a lot easier to tackle rather than trying to look at that huge mountain.
For
Um,
sure.
what do you feel like is your future goal? Say, like, where do you hope to be in the next 6, 12 months from now?
Definitely. We're at a point that we're scaling the company. And so what we've done with, hundreds or thousands of people, we're trying to take to millions. And so that growth, we want to get the goodness that we've put out into the world, we want to expand it into other markets and other nations. And so that's, one of the challenges that's ahead of us is just growing and scaling in technology and all the things that come with it and the technical infrastructure, but as well as the unknowns, right? So just like I practice what I preach. I enact change and the intentionality and the goal setting and the reminders and the reflections and the mindfulness to make sure that I don't burn out on this new journey that we have ahead.
Well, I think you bring up such a valid and interesting point. I think a lot of holistic practitioners or people in the wellness, well-being space, we tend to forget our own practice. Like, I think I hear that a lot about yoga teachers as well, that yoga teachers, they teach and they support and they hold the space, but then, like, they forget about their own practice. So it's so beautiful to hear you say, like, well, as we grow and expand, I still have to continue to apply these practices to myself as well. Um, what do you feel like are some of the biggest challenges you've faced along the way?
I think, partnership is always hard, just like it is in life, in business, and running a company and having peer-to-peer teammates in a company that you work at. I think that's, a hard part is working with other humans, showing up all collectively, showing up well in our whole selves and our best selves. You're gonna, no matter what team you are on, somebody's gonna have a bad day. Somebody's gonna have a phase in life. They're gonna have a hurdle that may take them 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 years to overcome. And how do you continue to work and show up in partnership and community with others and hold space for them as they're struggling with their own challenges or you're struggling with challenges? And so, just that's been one of the letdowns over the years, but one of the reminders as well that we're all humans. And in every one of those annoyances or friction moments, it's a reminder to hold space and grace for others and to potentially teach an action step or teach something that worked for you that may work for them, or just to find your own calmness and calm in the storm, find your own way to deal with that challenge in the best way possible.
So amazing and beautiful, and it sounds like you come from, I mean, I'm not gonna say we're all human, like, right? But, like, you come from a space of compassion and, understanding, and, um, so I think it's really important for people to remember all of our humanness and,
Yes.
like, how to approach different communication, like, whatever that might look like, come from a space of honesty, kindness in the best way we know possible. So I think that's really important. I think communication is something that we're always working on as a species, right?
Yeah.
And so I very look forward to hearing how things work out, like as you expand, as you grow, and as you move forward. So
Thank you.
how can people find your app? Is it in the App Store, Google Play?
It is, and you can also go to our website is joinpeakmind.com. So it's pretty easily spelled, and we're on all the social media, LinkedIn. If people want free tips and advice, they can watch some of our videos, or we share some stuff out on YouTube so they can follow along. And if they're ready to work with us, fantastic. If not, social media is the best place to kind of hear and pick up little tips until they're ready.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Alicia. Thanks for the conversation. I very much look forward to hearing what our listeners have to say about today.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.